Vous faites souvent de skate? Ah ouais, c'est autre chose.
T'as déménagé, c'était pour te donner des raisons de rescaper. C'est ça, hein.
Et puis il faut forger, il faut un forgeron. Ta photo finie, c'est la même chose, parce qu'elle est déjà 3 ou 4 cassés avant.
Is that okay there? Yeah, yeah.
Pour avoir maintenant les échelles jusqu'à 5 déjà le kilomètre pour mettre de pierre, ensuite
Je trouve difficile au niveau de la création d'arriver de même à avoir quelque chose de vraiment. J'ai l'impression que j'ai deux skates en fait. Non, ça se passe pas mal. Après, on a vraiment à faire un truc. Ça, c'est génial. C'est totalement cohérent. Moi, j'ai l'impression que j'ai la.
It'd be a bit of a lag.
Ça marche super bien.
Sorry, just... Okay, I'll tilt the camera a touch.
J'ai commencé à penser à ça.
Ouais, c'est un autre.
Would be better.
Moi, je viens des bassins extérieurs.
Oh,
C'est même pas un mètre cube.
okay. Oh, is it in the bag? Yeah, cool. The wood's still out there, we get that in a minute. Yeah, and we need some soil as well. Are we using ADA? Or do you have tropical in?
Jonathan, le sol, un ADA ou un tropical?
Spot the guy from tropical. Are we waiting for anyone else? Morgan? Jonathan, are we waiting for any more guests? Yeah. Quite a few more to come.
36.
Okay, no, we are streaming live on YouTube now, so if everyone's watching, just be patient. We've got paying guests here, so we're going to wait for them to arrive. Hands up who can understand me right now. That's great. So I don't need a translator. Fantastic. Does anyone not understand me? They wouldn't be able to put their hand up anyway, would they? I'll try to speak quite slowly. I'm aware that English isn't many of your first languages, so it's a bit embarrassing. I don't speak French or German very well. So if you do have any questions, please just interrupt me throughout the whole stream. This is a workshop for you, and I want you to get as much out of it as you can. My aim is, by the end of this workshop, is that you will be inspired by aquascaping. No matter what level you're at already in your aquascaping journey, I'm hoping that you will get something valuable out of this workshop. And I really appreciate you coming. I know some of you come from quite a distance, so I'm very grateful for you coming. And I'm very grateful, of course, to Morgan for inviting me here. I came here in 2019, and the shop was relatively new, and it's fantastic for me to see a new shop thrive and grow. And it's not just good because it's nice to see a business grow. It's more important for me to see aquascaping become more popular. And for me, my original kind of mission is always to promote aquascaping. And so for me to be able to do a workshop here in Switzerland, in a beautiful country, beautiful city, beautiful people, beautiful cheese, it's a real honour for me, and I'm very grateful. So thank you for coming, and we're going to have great fun. And like I say, please feel free to ask me any questions throughout the thing. If you have trouble understanding me or you want something translated, we do have French and German here as well. So any questions before we really get going? I still think we're waiting for a few people. 8 people, okay. Should we just do maybe a Q&A session now while we're waiting for people? Is that suit you, Morgan? Yeah. Could I get a drink of water before we? Thank you.
That was your question.
Yeah, that's my question. Can I have a drink of water? I'm quite easy. I'm quite low maintenance. I just need water and coffee. Yeah. Does anyone have a question for me before we? It's always a bit tricky at the beginning of the workshop. People are a bit shy to ask this. So.
Do you still have your discus tank?
Oh, that's a good question. I have the tank. You know what I mean? It's going to be announced at some point for public consumption. So the discus were rehomed. Yeah, because of all the travelling and external commitments, they're a very high maintenance fish, and the more time I spend in the hobby, the more I realise actually we're in a privileged position to be keeping these animals, and it's not fair unless you can keep them in optimal conditions, and I couldn't do that. So I reached out with my network, the supplier who gave me the discus. He knew someone who would give them a beautiful home, better than any home I could ever give them. So it was quite emotional because I did have a bond with them, and I fed them, 3 times a day. I was doing water, I really did have a connection with them, and it was quite sad to see them go. But it's a bittersweet story because I know that actually they're going to have a better home. I know I've heard reports that they're already spawning, and they're in really good condition. And now the tank that they were in is now almost like it's like my own hobby tank, and I've kept it under wraps for now. I've kept it, not made it public, not made any videos or photos of it. I've just shared it with a few friends, and I'm planning on doing like a big reveal, I think, grow it in, and it's amazing, beautiful aquascape, hopefully. And then I'll go, this is what I've been doing for the last 6 months behind closed doors. Because sometimes as a professional aquascaper or a full-time self-employed aquascaper who's very much in the public figure, everyone is kind of watching everything you do all the time. It's actually nice to have something for yourself. So that's what I decided to do. Thank you for your question. It's a good one to start with. Yeah. Anything else? No? Good. Cheers. What was it? It's not salute. Santé. Cheers. Any other arrivals? We're still waiting. Let's just check the stream. Please feel free. Oh, please feel free to, if you're on social media, please feel free to take photos throughout the workshop, share them, make sure you tag at Swiss Aqua Shop, and if you could tag me in as well, that'd be cool. That's George Farmer Studios, all one word. But please use this as an opportunity to share aquascaping as well with the world, because aquascaping for me it's more than a hobby for me personally. It's obviously a career, but it's actually something that I identify with. It's kind of like, sometimes you're a husband, you're a father, a brother, a sister, all these things. So I am an aquascaper, and it's a real calling. What I mean by calling, you have this inbuilt kind of motivation to do something special with your life, and for me that is aquascaping. So that's kind of why I'm here, preaching the word of aquascaping to you. And for me it is almost like that. It was almost like it's quite a spiritual hobby, because it kind of connects you with nature, and nature is fundamentally what we're all part of. You can look at it in very different ways. Some of you may be religious, spiritual, however you want to look at it. What we're doing is creating nature in this aquarium, and that is the whole kind of philosophy that Takashi Amano taught us, was this nature aquarium concept, which is what we're doing today, and using this, this deep connection with nature that we have as humans, and we can see it with the plants, we see it with the fish, the shrimp, the snails, all the way down to like bacteria, level, microorganisms. We're all part of nature. We all share life, nature. So for us to be able to replicate nature in a glass box, it's a real privilege, and we should be very grateful to be able to do that. And when we're in a beautiful store right now, and you have all of this beautiful equipment, all of the beautiful plants, all of the beautiful fish, all of the beautiful knowledge from the staff here and from myself, in order for you to be able to execute this luxury of being able to create nature inside your aquarium. So it's a really special hobby. Yes. So I think we'll actually get started with the escaping process. This is a Wase Scaper Line 60 aquarium. It's a new line of aquariums from Wase. I work with Wase very closely. I'm actually their global ambassador, so I'm very happy to be able to talk about this aquarium today. It's a rimless tank. You've seen rimless tanks before. They don't have a lid. This is really great because you can have things coming out the top. You can have emergent plant growth. You can have woods coming out the top. You can have rocks even, and you get to actually see inside the aquarium. So unlike a covered hooded aquarium, you obviously can't see down. This is lovely. You can actually get a completely new, this is a great example here. You can actually look into the aquarium, and it reminds you more of nature. When you're looking down into the scape, you can see the fish from above. It's actually quite a special feeling versus looking straight on into an aquarium. So that's something a little bit different to most tanks. Some unique features with the Scaper line in particular. It has the way the glass is joined together, rather than being a right angle, we call that perpendicular. It's a good word for you for English. Perpendicular is right angular. These are at 45-degree angle, so it's called mitered, a mitered corner. So they're actually butted up together at 45-degree angle here, if that makes sense. It's clear silicone, so hopefully you hardly see any join there. And the whole idea is you want to be creating this almost floating column of water. You don't want to be seeing any of the glass pipes. If you imagine having black plastic or green plastic, it would look really, quite ugly. So we use the glass pipes. We have the pipes, the hoses come over, excuse me, the side of the aquarium. So this is quite unique. These are removable. We have magnets here, and there's actually different sizes of these available as well. So you can configure your cabinet here So you can have your hoses coming out either side, like so, rather than over the back. So if you had, say, black or green hoses, or even clear hoses which were slightly dirty, if you imagine them coming over the back of the aquarium, it's going to look not great. So we have them coming over the side of the aquarium with the glass, and it just gives a really clean look to the whole system. We'll pretend that we did see that. The cabinet, we talked about the cabinet, but it also has another unique feature. For those that aren't aware, the Biomaster filters, they have a pre-filter, which is very easy to remove. And to make that even easier, you put your filter on this slidable unit here, and that pulls out like this, and then you can have easy access to your pre-filter. So it's a great feature. It is a premium product. It's not cheap, but you get what you pay for. I'm a big fan of buying premium quality products if you can afford it right away from the start, and then you're not going to have to replace it if it goes wrong because it's a cheaper product. You've got the pick here. It's a beautiful store. You've got amazing hardscape, amazing products. Like I say, good staff to give you the tips that you need if you need to. Is there any questions on the tank and cabinet, the aquarium and the cabinet so far?
Actually, does the water have a glass roof pipe as well?
Not yet, no. No, that's something that we're looking at. They're increasing their aquascaping range all the time. They're just coming out with the soil, in fact. Yeah, so I don't know how we're going to work that one with Tropica. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, you can see it's a lovely product and a great way to showcase our aquascapes. That's what it's all about. This is our kind of blank canvas. This is our blank piece of paper, and now we get to do our beautiful painting with our plants and our hardscape and create not exactly this, but I mean this is a beautiful example. I absolutely love this. Anyway. Lighting wise, we are using a TwinStar Series 3 600S. Really good lights. I've had lots of experience with TwinStar lighting. They have an array of blue, green, red and white LEDs, and they are arranged in a way that give you this beautiful colour rendition. Not quite as saturated as the ADA, so it's not quite as brilliant, as colourful, but arguably maybe a more natural colour rendition. So you can look around. A lot of lighting is down to your own tastes, your own personal tastes, your own budget. For some people, this is beautiful, very nice greens, very rich in colours, but it's a very expensive unit and it's not in everyone's price range. Something like this, a bit more affordable, not quite as intense for given the colours, but still a very good quality and high performing light unit. Any questions on the lighting? I normally run about 8 hours a day photo period. You do often have the opportunity to ramp up and ramp down your lighting. So I tend to, if you can, have the lights kind of start off low and then ramp up, rather than coming on super bright, because that can scare your fish. So if you can have it ramp up, then I like to do that. A lot of people when they first set up their aquascape, it's quite a good idea to run a slightly lower intensity of light if you can. So often you might want to run, say, 50% lighting power for maybe 6 hours, and then over sort of 4 to 6 weeks you can gradually ramp it up to 100% if you wanted to, and go up to 8 hours. So it's a rough guideline. It's not an exact science, but that's how that kind of method works well for me and many other people. Good. We have some soil, perfect. So now it's time to install. The first part of the process is to install our substrate system. Today we're using ADA. Many of you will be aware of ADA, Aqua Design Amano. We talked about Takashi Amano already. This is his company. I think he founded it in, does anyone know? Anyone know when ADA was founded? Or let's say late 80s, maybe mid 80s. Because he opened a store, didn't he? He should know. But it's about 30, we had a 30-year anniversary recently. Anyway, I should know. I've been caught out live on YouTube and in front of an audience. But yeah, he founded the Aqua Design Amano, ADA, as most people know in the aquascaping hobby. Very much a luxury brand, Japanese brand. You will pay a premium for it. It doesn't actually cost so much in Japan, but with export rates and shipping now, especially with new shipping costs, etc., it is relatively expensive. But it is, arguably the best aquarium brand out there. The highest quality aquascaping brand, arguably, and it has thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of fans, thousands of fans all over the world. ADA also run an international contest called the International Aquatic Plant Layout Contest. Some of you, anyone entered before here? Yeah, a few of you. Normally about 60, 65 countries that enter, between 2,000 and 3,000 entries. It happens every year, and the top prize is 1 million Japanese yen, which is about, I think about 10,000 US dollars. So quite a hefty prize, but it's, that isn't the motivation for most people entering. It's the kudos, of scoring very highly in this contest, and it's actually become quite has a bit of a cult following, really. If you manage to get top 100 in this contest, you're regarded as a serious scaper. Top 27, that's regarded as you're really like elite level, and then top 7, you're like god-like status aquascaping. And it has a great following, and I've got mixed feelings about contests. Part of me is, I don't do aquascaping to be competitive, but I understand that competitions can be very useful for progressing the hobby. We have things like concept cars, and these sort of cutting edge parts of the hobby are useful for evolving the hobby. So I think they can be useful, and contests are very good for inspiring as well beginners. So if you showed a beginner, one of these top IOPLC rankings, it would blow their mind. But therein lies a potential problem, because if you show a beginner something like this, they're like, can be a bit overwhelming. It can be a bit of a challenge to communicate how we set this up to a complete beginner. So this is why I love these kind of workshops, where I can kind of hopefully do it step by step, teach you increment by increment, and then hopefully we get the whole picture and it all makes sense. We're not going to be doing a contest level aquascape today, but we can talk about some of the principles and indeed hopefully still make a beautiful aquarium. So the substrates, this is the Power Sand Special. This is from ADA, a base layer product. It contains long-term nutrients and some other interesting products that claim to have really good benefits for the whole system. So I think there's activated carbon in there. I think there's some bacteria product in there as well. Does anyone else know? Any Power Sand experts out there? I think there's a couple of other things. They basically help to give a long-term nutritional basis for the substrate. The actual kind of product is based on pumice, which is like a volcanic kind of stone. Doesn't decompose over time like the soil will, so it will kind of stay there long-term, and like I said, add these nutrients. Topping it off with the ADA Aqua Soil Amazonia. Probably still one of the most popular soils out there, the original Aqua Soil. Bit of trivia for you. one of the first soils that Takashi Amano used before Aquasoil was actually Akadama soil. Some bonsai experts might have heard of that. That's the substrate that's often used for potting bonsai trees. So that was actually used as a aquascaping substrate back in the day. So we've just spread it quite evenly across there. You can see I've deliberately kept an open space there, right at the front of the tank. And that's so when we actually add our aquasoil, that's going to butt up right against the glass, and we're not going to see the ugly power sand. So we deliberately kept a little bit of a gap there at the front. Is my talking okay for everyone? Yeah? Does anyone need any questions answering yet?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
On planning, how much you like invest time on, okay, these are the times I'm going to use, I'm doing like maths of how much substrate or soil I have to put. How much you invest time on that, or how much is like?
Yeah, I understand the question. So for those that didn't hear at the front, how much time do we plan on the substrate quantities, hardscape and planting, basically the planning process, how much time? Well, I think it's down to the individual. Because I've done so many aquascapes, planning for me, I haven't planned anything today. I just see the plants, I see the hardscape and it kind of thingy. But as a beginner, take as long as you need and have maybe deliberately take longer than you might need, because I think if you really plan properly and enjoy that planning process, take your time to obtain the materials, take your time to practice the hardscape. And you know, I know people that have taken months to create their hardscape layout. They've saved up, you know, people that have just started the hobby, that are 18, 19 years old. They don't have a lot of disposable income. So I've known guys that have taken 12 months to save up for an ADA system. And I think this is a really nice thing. I think this is teaching more life skills, you know, like delayed gratification, you know, deliberately taking your time to enjoy the process rather than trying to rush it to get that end goal. So this is a good example here. A member of the public could probably come in and see that, and they could say, I want that right now. You know, I want this. I don't care how much it costs. 10,000 euros. Okay, I'll take it now. But I can guarantee the person that has bought that for 10,000 euros isn't going to enjoy it as much as the person that spent 12 months planning it, saving up the money, and that delaying that gratification. So the lesson there is take as much time as you need to plan.
Follow up on this one, besides that, how much precision you need on the planning, meaning all the components that you will have
not so much as you may think. So it's a very difficult question to answer with one coherent thing. So have you got my book? No, all the answers are in there. Good. It isn't an exact science, so there isn't like if you follow this exact thing, you're going to end up with this exact result. My biggest lesson here today is actually have fun during the process. So try not to get so fixated on the strict structured planning. Just enjoy the journey. And that sounds really cheesy, but yeah, sorry for the cheese joke. I know we're in Switzerland. Okay, any other questions before we put the soil in? I'm going to talk about the soil in some detail. It's an important product. You don't have to use this as a base layer. If you wanted to save a little bit of money, you can just use this on its own. Arguably, you might not get optimum results, but you'll still get good results. So this contains a lot of nutrients. It is a product that's been evolved over the years. This is the version 2. I believe it doesn't have so much ammonia. Is that right? Does it have a little bit of a less ammonia spike? So Aquasoil Amazonia is well known for, we actually have some additives as well. Has anyone used this before? Yeah, what do we do with that? Do you know?
Just planting the soil close to the plants.
Okay.
And it's just
Every day's a school day. I'm learning today, it's great. Cool. Are they like little root tabs? Oh, I see. Yeah, cool. Ammonia. A lot of soils will leach ammonia in the first few weeks. So that's can be good, can be bad. It can be good because ammonia is really good for seeding the bacteria, creating new bacteria for your filtration. However, it's toxic to livestock, so you shouldn't be adding any fish or shrimp if there's any ammonia at all. So ideally you want to be testing your water before adding any fish or shrimp or snails to make sure there's no ammonia. You need to be ideally doing large frequent water changes for the first 3 or 4 weeks to dilute this ammonia. That will dilute the ammonia and it will also help to prevent algae. You know, algae is really, really common in new setups, and one of the best ways we can prevent algae is these large frequent water changes. It just dilutes everything, it dilutes all the algae spores, it promotes healthy fresh plant growth. Healthy fresh plant growth is the best way to prevent algae growth. If we plant really heavily, which we're going to do today, with at least some fast growing plants, which we're going to do today, look after those plants the best we can. Good light, CO2 injection, good substrates, liquid fertilizers, good circulation, good filtration, good water changes. All of those components added together mean that we get great plant growth and no algae growth, hopefully, or minimum algae growth. Talk about algae a lot with aquariums. It's most people's reason that they don't like the hobby. It's the number one thing. Algae is the number one reason people give up the hobby. So for me, it's really important that I try to educate people on algae, and I like to educate people in the right way about algae. It's not necessarily selling you a product to kill the algae. It's actually learning why the algae has happened, addressing the cause of the algae. If you can do that, then the algae won't come back again, and you'll never need to use products to kill algae, or even you won't hardly even need to rely on algae eating fish or shrimp. You can just rely on good maintenance practice, good plant husbandry. Look after your plants, look after your the whole aquarium system, and then algae won't bother you. Algae is like the warning sign. It's like a little hello, something not quite right in here. We need to do something. Look at the reason the algae is there. Address the reason, and then it won't come back. Okay. Soil's in. Any questions on the substrates? It can last for years. A lot of people wonder how long these soils will last. One of the things that kind of happens first is the nutrients will run out, but if we use a liquid fertilizer regularly, the nutrients will last a bit longer. It can actually kind of gradually degrade as well and turn into a bit of a muddy kind of sludge substance. So if you have digging fish, that can be an issue. But there is, I think there's an aquascape at the Nature Aquarium Gallery in Japan that has the original aqua soil in from when it was first scaped. So I think it's 15 years old or so. So the soil will last forever, basically, almost. Okay, hardscape. Exciting. Hardscape is the backbone of the layout. Who's watched my YouTube videos? Okay, you're going to know what I'm going to say now about hardscape. It is really important. It's a really important part of the aquascape. It's like the framework. It's the basis. It's the foundation of the aquascape. So if we start off with a strong, high-impact hardscape like we've got here, all of the aquascapes in the store have got a strong hardscape. It is, one of the most important things to get right to start with. So it's important to emphasise that, and it's important to choose the right hardscape and position it correctly. Now, I've chosen some pieces already. We're just going to use wood today. and that is called a Ryoboku style layout. If we just use stones, does anyone know what that's called? Iwagumi, yes, correct. So we've just got this beautiful wood here. It has been pre-soaked for about 24 hours. There's no way that's going to sink. It does want to float still, so we have to bear that in mind when we fill up with water. We'll probably have to put a stone on top. We haven't got time to glue or anything like that today, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So, hardscape, we've got some beautiful pieces of wood. When you choose your hardscape in your aquarium shop, of course, hopefully Swiss Aqua shop, they have a aquascaping dojo, we call that over there, which is an area where you can practice your hardscape layouts. So that's what I did yesterday. I did take a couple of photos on my phone, but I can remember, I think, how I did it. Almost always, I start off with the largest, most dominant piece, which is probably that piece there, and then I work my way down in size. So I've got my biggest piece here, and then I'm going to look at it and I'm thinking, what's the most kind of attractive side? How best place can I put that in order to achieve maximum aesthetic impact and balance? And there's no right answer for that, and that's the beauty of aquascaping. Okay, it's down to you. You're the aquascaper. You're the creator. You're like God, basically, and this is your world. And it's up to you what you want to create. So I really love triangular layouts, and I really love them because they're really easy to make it look good. All right, and that's what I'm about. I'm about trying to make aquascaping as easy and as accessible to as many people as I can. Okay, so let's pop that in about there. This isn't necessarily the final position, but we just need to start. Okay, there's a lesson there. Just get started, make your mistakes, learn from your mistakes, move on, keep making mistakes, you know, and there's actually a lot of science. I'm quite into neuroscience, and there's actually a study been done, and there's actually a ratio of how many mistakes to how many successes you have for optimum learning, and it's 85% success to 15% failure. But if you can get that, then good luck. So what I'm saying is, don't be afraid, just get started, get it wrong. The more you get wrong, the more you're going to learn, the quicker you're going to learn, the more you're going to get right. So just don't be afraid to make mistakes. People are too afraid these days. Okay, that looks quite good there already. Let's work our way down. And you can see, I'm going to move the light forward, and you can hopefully see the beautiful grain in this wood. There we are, look at that. So we've got this natural grain, very distinctive, very dramatic, isn't it? And we've got this natural kind of flow already going across the aquarium like this. So let's enhance that and use another piece of wood to go in the same kind of direction. So I'm actually going to deliberately bury the wood somewhat, and in the hope that it's going to naturally want to stay submersed. Okay, that looks quite good, doesn't it, already? Be mindful about any hardscape up against the glass. Some people, like to keep the glass clean all the way around. If you obviously got the hardscape up against it, that's going to be an issue. For some folk, the actual kind of aquascape from the front is more important than maintaining it around the sides. So it's down to you. I actually like to keep it relatively easy to clean all the way around. Okay, so that's the first two pieces in. I quite like that. I quite like the way that we can see through there. It's quite cool. And then the good thing about this type of wood, I'm not sure what type of wood it is. Do we know? Ironwood. Ironwood. Is it ADA? No, I don't think it's ironwood. Anyway, whatever wood it is, it's lovely, and you might get some tannins. But what I really love about it is the textures and these kind of gouges and these gaps here, and that's going to be perfect for attaching mosses, any epiphyte plants, which we'll talk about later. Could I have another glass of sparkling water? please. Hello? No one's paying attention. So I sort myself out. Worst guests ever. Right. So we'll put some more wood in. We've got 4 pieces to choose from. I'm quite conscious, it's quite a small aquarium, 60 centimetres long by 35 centimetres by 35. I think it holds about 70 litres. 20 US gallons. We don't want to put, I don't want to put too much hardscape in there because I'm a big fan of plants, and the more hardscape we have, the less room to plant in the soil we have. So I'm probably going to only use the 3, might use 4 pieces. Let's have a look. So this, I'm just looking at this piece here. This has a very sort of linear piece here, quite boring. So I'm just wondering, it might look quite nice between those 2 pieces of wood. And you can see the definite grain, we're following that distinctive grain, aren't we? That flowing pattern across the scape. And then we're going to kind of match that theme hopefully with the planting as well. Try to bury that a bit more of a chance to stay underwater. Okay, we've got another piece here. I'm not sure if we need it, but let's see. So, well, not obviously, but we've got the grain. The grains flowing this way. We've got a couple of options here. We can go like this, or kind of like this, and have a bit more interest on the popping up there. So let's try that. Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? It's giving us more depth now. In aquascaping, we often talk about layers, different distinctive layers, running from front to back. So at the moment, with those first 3 pieces of wood, it is very linear. We only had one kind of layer going from front to back. Now with this other piece here, we've got a distinctive second layer, which is adding a sense of depth. And we can create more depth with using different plants. And then once the plants are mature, we can create even more by trimming and things like that. And that's a good lesson there, actually, depth. Sense of depth is one of the most important things to consider with your aquascaping. You really want to try to enhance the picture that you're looking at. You know, you want to be taking on a journey through the picture, not just from left to right, but from front to back as well. And because we're looking at our aquascapes either through books or on a mobile phone screen or a TV screen or whatever, this is of course 2-dimensional. So it's important, if you really want to create that extra sense of depth, we can use these kind of optical illusions and tricks, and using this kind of layered effect is a great way to do that. Other top tips are using pathways, which we can see kind of here, using illuminated backgrounds. It's really great to kind of enhance the sense of depth. It's a good example here. So this has got a black background. You know, it goes from beautiful and then suddenly it stops, bang, and you can kind of see that it's not a very deep tank, no disrespect to Jonathan, but it's quite a narrow tank. But as you look at this one here, and because you have this pathway and then you have the illuminated background, it really takes you through the aquascape, so it really helps to create this depth. Does that make sense to everyone? Good. Any questions? Hello.
Hi. I see you've only used the back 2/3 for the hardscape. Do you never encroach further towards the front with the hardscape?
I do. Depends on the design. You're right. There is actually quite a lot of space there. I might actually move it forward. Thank you very much. If you look at it from this side, you can't obviously see it. It's actually quite central. The whole kind of hardscape kind of mound is quite centralised. So I've got equal background and foreground planting. You got me thinking now. Yeah. But I'll tell you what we could do to compromise. I'm a bit conscious of the wood floating, so I wonder if we could get a beautiful piece of stone, you know, to kind of lie across here that has strata to either complement the grain so it will kind of flow with it, or do we deliberately add some tension? This is a great example of the delicate balance between harmony and tension. So at the moment we have a very distinct harmony, okay? So everything is flowing in the same direction. It's very clear, the intention of the aquascape. You know, we want you to start looking here and we want you to look across and move across this way. Yeah, is that quite clear to everyone? If we had another piece of stone here that had this, I'm going to go and get one right now to show you exactly what I mean. In fact, can someone, Jonathan, can you get me a piece of dragon stone to match? Does he know what he doesn't know what I mean? Let's see what he comes back with. 15 to 20 centimetres long by 8 to 10 centimetres wide by 4 centimetres thick. Perfect. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to do something really. I need to clean this off quickly.
Oh, yeah.
It's good. Yeah, just a bucket of water. Just rinse that off. So if we had the dragonstone, I'll show you in a minute, but dragonstone has a very distinct, does everyone know dragonstone? It looks like dragon scales, it's orangey colour, and it has a very distinct strata. So we call it a strata, this is the natural lines. And a similar thing to the grains that we have in the wood. Right? So we can have the strata naturally lining up like this, or, remember when we talked about perpendicular before? We could actually have the strata running perpendicular at a right angle to the grain, and that creates tension. That's the opposite of harmony. Right? So harmony, everything flowing in the same direction. Thank you very much. And then tension, deliberately opposing the harmony. So I'll tell you, we'll do both, and then we'll take a vote and see which one we like. Okay. So let's go for harmony first. So the natural strata is running this way, so I'm going to pop that in like so. And move that forward so we can see it better. Okay, so everyone take a mental photo of that. In fact, who's got a mobile phone with them? Everyone, I'm guessing. Will I borrow it for a second?
Sure.
Is that a 13?
No, 12, sorry.
No, I was going to steal it.
Yeah.
So you could take a photo. This is a good example because we're dealing with 3 dimensions with our eyes, but we're dealing 2 dimensions on a photo, and actually that can be quite useful for us. All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And then let's go for the tension. Is everyone feeling really tense?
Tricky one, huh?
You get the idea. Interesting. Okay. Can I borrow your phone again, sir? What I might do is, if you don't mind, I'm going to get these images off you later, and then I'll do a poll on Instagram.
No problem.
Yeah?
Feel free.
I did take a photo there. Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon?
I quite like the tension actually, for some reason.
The tension looks better in the photo, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, hands up for harmony. Okay, hands up for this one. Yeah, this one looks good. Good answer. I agree. Now we could, if we wanted to, we could accentuate now. We've started a new process, we've started a new line of thinking. We've used stones. So I'm like, oh, let's use more stones now. So I wonder if we have another smaller piece to match this one. And can you see where this is going to go? So this one is like quite focally. We're very dominant around here. So then we can offset that now with a smaller stone running between. We deliberately put that between these two pieces of wood here. We really accentuate the layers going from front to back. So then we've now got 3 distinct layers, even 4 now with this stone. Is that making sense to everyone? So really getting on that depth, enhancing the depth now. Aha, perfect. Yeah, just the 2 smallest that you've got there, please. Merci. We just get them quickly rinsed again. Throwing stones in glass houses. Who's come from France? You? Yeah? Anyone from Germany? No? Oh, everyone from Switzerland? Yeah. Whose first time is it here in this shop? Yeah? It's good, isn't it? I think it's great the hobby's growing in Switzerland. It's really big in Germany, not quite so big in France, but yeah, it's really great to get it more popular. Thank you. So we often use odd numbers in aquascaping, especially with rocks. Even numbers tend to promote symmetry, which we try to avoid usually in aquascaping. So I'm now looking at the stones and then lining up the strata, which I think would look best. That's really nice. I'm going to pop that one here. In fact, that's weighing that one down. That's hopefully going to weigh that one down. Now that doesn't look natural right now. Can you see this is like bright orange up against that wood? But what we can do, we can soften that connection there with small epiphytes. That's a top tip. Using epiphytes where 2 pieces of hardscape are joined together is a really nice way to encourage a more natural look. And then if we do the last one can complement this third one. Second one. Pop that. Now this is definitely going to want to float, this piece here. So if we partially bury that there, and then this can hopefully slot. Pop that in there, like so. And then because we're going to be planting around there, that's going to look natural. And hopefully now we're not going to be worried about the wood floating. So we've tried to combine, function, i.e. keeping the wood down, but form, aesthetics, by creating a lovely, well-balanced hardscape layout. So if I was at home now, I would literally pull up a chair here, and I'd sit there with a cup of tea or coffee, have some music on, and I just look at it, and I just sort of take it all in and go into. So I used to go into like a tunnel-like focus. Like when you look for a drink straw, you just see the light, and it's really sharp, isn't it? Have you noticed that? When you look through a really small diameter thing, everything's like super sharp and everything's super laser focused. And that's what I used to do, and I used to kind of sit here and just everything, just me and the scape. But now, I'm like almost deliberately widen my vision, and actually somehow it lets more creativity in for me. When I was doing the laser-like focus, I would just really struggle, you know, what do I need to do next? I'd get a creative block. But when I just sort of dilate my gaze, more panoramic style, like a wider angle, and allow my complete kind of environment in, it allowed me to think more creatively. I've never shared that before, so here you go, top tips. So, does everyone think that's fairly good, hardscape layout? Yeah? Anyone disagree? Think I'm another go? I'm really happy with it. I am a little bit reluctant about when we fill up with water, so what we top tip from experience, trust me, we fill up really slowly and keep a really close eye on the wood. If the wood moves, you know it's going to start to float, so then we need to put like rocks on top. So that's a top tip. If we had more time, you know, we could have glued the wood in position. We could have pre-soaked it for a few weeks in advance. These are all things that you can do at home, of course, but we haven't got that luxury today. So the hardscape's in. I'm ready to plant now. I'm really excited. I love planting, and I get to talk about my favourite plants. So I'm just going to tidy up a little bit using my fancy €300 metal device. Oh, sorry. Special offer today. It's only 150. But all jokes aside, you do pay a premium for ADA, but we know why now, and that's okay. It does get a lot of criticism, ADA, but I think it is what it is. It's a luxury product. You don't have to pay it. You can get similar results with cheaper products. But if you want to pay a premium for a luxury product, you know, we live in a relatively rich country. Rolex, there's a Rolex place down the road, I noticed. You know, this is all luxury items. But going back to the kind of whole concept of what we're doing, you know, actually what we're doing here is creating luxury. You know, and that is, you know, money aside, you know, financial investment aside, you're investing in well-being. You know, you're investing in yourself, I think. So by creating something beautiful that you can live with, that you can connect with every day, it's special time just for you and that thing, you know, that you've created, that you're helping to maintain, you know, it's a really special thing. So how much financial value you put on that, I don't know, and it's up to you as an individual to make that decision yourself. But for me personally, well-being is a super important thing. And over the last couple of years, you know, with the pandemic, I've noticed how little attention I spend on myself and well-being. So aquascaping is, for me, like one of the best things, you know, to help encourage that kind of well-being, that mental health, wellness thing. It really is a beautiful hobby. You know, whether you're just consuming it, sitting in front of this and enjoying it, whether you're maintaining it, trimming the plants, scraping the algae, changing the water, feeding the fish, cleaning the filter. Yeah, all these jobs that some people would find a chore, some people would find them, oh, I've got to maintain the tank today. That you switch the complaining to grateful, to being grateful. You have an opportunity to work on something that's beautiful, that's providing you with a level of wellness, you know, it's giving you a sense of well-being. So the least you can do is look after that, you know, and actually the more you look after that, the more it's going to look after you back. So it's actually like a virtuous circle of positivity. And that's one of the reasons, you know, one of the many reasons that I love aquascaping so much. Wow. Okay, plants. I have some pre-picked. I haven't prepared them yet. I'm hoping I'll have some volunteers. So these are all Tropica aquarium plants. No surprises there. I am a big Tropica fan. I do work with Tropica. I am a content creator for them. And the reason for that is that I've been using their plants for about 15 years now, almost exclusively. And they're brilliant. You know, they're a company based in Denmark. It's not a country that you'd normally associate with growing plants, but they do, and they do it very well. We have a brilliant selection here. They're all really healthy. I mean, they're kept in here brilliantly. There's three ways they're being kept. In this fridge behind you, sir, the ones who grows, fantastic. Got hydroponics there, regular pots, and then we've got the underwater versions there. All kept in brilliant conditions. So if you buy anything today, you know, buy some plants. You can't have too many. There's always room, right, to add a little, one more plant in there, isn't there? Okay, so I am going to start off by planting the foreground. Now, do I have any volunteers that are skilled and confident of preparing want to grow plants? Anyone? Yeah? Thank you very much. What's your name? Oh, you go ahead. Who's coming? There we go.
Everybody's.
Everyone's, come on!
What's those two for you?
Yeah, you can bring those as well, yeah. What's your name?
Grégoire.
Sorry?
Grégoire.
Grégoire? I'm George. Nice to meet you. Are you going to help me?
Yes.
Yeah? Have you ever prepared these before?
Yeah.
Yeah? Do I need to tell you, or
No,
you
no.
go ahead? Perfect. I like him. You go ahead. So this is Eliocharis acicularis mini, very popular, commonly known as mini hairgrass. Stays very short, 2 to 3 centimetres. It's medium category, so it will need CO2 injection to thrive. It does need moderate to decent. Oh, so you after?
I'm looking for water, clean the plants.
Okay, no problem. I'll carry on talking about plants.
Hey John, I have a question.
Okay, go for it.
How many different species you put in here?
In here today?
You have many species here.
Yeah, probably. I normally go for between sort of 10 and 20.
Different species?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, mix it up. We're trying to create. It depends on the style. You know, you can go for a minimalist style,
Yeah.
and you just use 1 or 2 species, or you go for a bit more of a complex, like naturalistic style, which is what we're doing today. Although I'm using lots of different species, they're actually very similar textures. So they're all spiky, and because we've got spiky wood, and the nature of the stone and these lines, they're all kind of like very rigid, spiky textures. So although I've used lots of different species, there is a coherent style. So they're all spiky. They're all going to kind of, everything's going to kind of like this. That's the whole idea. Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about mini hairgrass, Eliocharis acicularis, medium category. Ideally needs CO2 injection. They're preparing it for me now, that's good. We'll move on to, while they're preparing that, let's move on to another plant. I haven't actually used this plant for 2011.
Why?
11 years. Sagittaria subulata. Right, it's a bit of a brute. It grows very fast, but that's okay, especially in a new setup. We can always remove it in the longer term, but it's a great plant to start off with. I always recommend planting at least a few fast growers at the start. This is really going to help avoid early algae issues. So these are the tropical want to grow. Some of you may be aware of this product type already. For those that aren't, these are grown in Denmark, in Tropica's own laboratories in Denmark. It's a fantastic facility. I have done a couple of vlogs on my channel, on the Tropica channel, about it. But it's just an absolute, it's incredible what they do. These are my favourite type of plants, and the reason for that is there's a few reasons. You actually get more plants for your money. So although they look smaller, they are smaller, you get more quantity. So a regular pot of this, you probably get 5 to 10 little plants worth, but in here, there's probably between 50 and 100, but they're just much smaller. Them being small isn't an issue. In fact, it's really great. You obviously got more quantity, but they're actually grown in a special, I'm going to take it out of its case here. They're actually grown in a special liquid. Okay, this is a special liquid containing nutrients and growth hormones, etc., the plant is like a test tube baby. You have heard of test tube babies? Basically grown in a laboratory in this nutrient-rich liquid. Now, this plant has readily adapted to grow underwater already. Okay, now that's really good because it means as soon as we put it in here and filled it with water, it's going to want to start growing straight away. That's really important to know because alternatively, this plant here and all of the plants from this tank here and this tank here, basically all the plants that aren't one to grow, these have been grown in the greenhouses out of water, okay, hydroponically. So the feet of the plant, the base of the plant here, that's just, you can see in that thing there, just the liquid around there, the nutrient-rich liquid is circulating, the plant grows out into the air, has loads of access to CO2 in the air, so it grows really fast, all of the light, all the natural light in the greenhouse, they grow really robust, really well, okay? Now, this has been growing in the air, it hasn't been growing in the water, only the bottom bit here has been growing in the water, so this bit wants to grow in the air. When we put that in the tank now, it has to go through a change, yeah? It has to change its actual physical shape, the way its morphology, we call that. It changes to grow underwater. Now, during that change, you can get what we call die-off or melt. Some of the plants will struggle. But if you have a good system with good soil, CO2, good lighting, this is key. If you've bought the plant fresh from the store, or the store is keeping the plant in a good condition environment, like it is here, that plant is going to adapt. It's going to change, no problem, to your tank. However, if you bought a poor quality plant, it's got algae on, it's starting to show signs it's dying already, you put it in your tank, it's going to struggle. And if you don't have an optimum system, it's going to struggle as well. So, top tip, buy your plants as fresh as you can. If possible, try to get the 1-2 grows. But if not, just get them from a shop like Swiss Aqua Shop where they're storing the plants really nicely.
What do you want first? What do you need first?
I need the hair grass, yes. Thank you so much. This is great. Come back here again. In England, it's really interesting. People seem to be a lot more shy in England, and you kind of have to really encourage people. But this is great. I do need some pincets though. Is that okay? Thank you very much. Okay, so to plant, I'm sure most of you have planted before, but for those that haven't, this is the Eleocharis mini. It's been split up into several portions. This is quite a chunky portion here. You can actually divide it up a bit more if you wanted to. You could divide it up, you could divide that probably into 10 or 20 if you really wanted to. So you can actually get really economical coverage of your plants just by splitting them up a bit more. I'm just going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to pop this here. And then to plant, simply grab your pincets. These are fancy ADA pincets, very comfortable, very beautiful to use. And then what I like to do, pop one in the middle.
Sorry, do you mind if I take a few pictures?
Please do. Everyone, please take as many photos as you like, the more the merrier. Please tag Swiss Aqua Shop and myself. And I'll pop one in over to the left. This is a good example of when it can go wrong. So it was meant to happen like that. This is an example. So pop that in there, and then you just get your finger, and then it should stay in there like so. And then we repeat that process. I used to plant into wet soil, so you can see I'm planting into dry soil right now. This was actually a tip by my good German friend Juris. Some of you may have heard of Juris, well-known German aquascaper. You might even be watching. He taught me to plant into dry soil, and I've done that ever since, and I just find it a lot less messy. Your tweezers don't get covered in like wet soil. When you fill up with water, I find you tend to get less floating plants. So this is why I plant into dry soil. Anyone else do dry soil or wet soil? You do dry? Yeah, dry. Who's dry? Who's wet? Losers. Jokes. Perfect. I mean, when I first started the hobby, I was just, I don't know if anyone was the same, I just used to get the pot like this, and then like, ta-da, I'm done. Yeah. They hadn't even heard of the word hardscape. Yeah, I bought my first CO2 injection kit, and the internet wasn't really a thing, so I had to drive, I think, like a 300-kilometre sort of round trip to buy my first CO2 kit. But I think that's like that level of obsession I had, you know, in the early stages of my hobby. Some of you might be there right now. You might have just started the hobby, and you're so like passionate, obsessed, like a complete sponge for information, and you just want to learn as much as you can. And that's what I was like. And you know, back then there wasn't Instagram, there wasn't Facebook or YouTube. It was message boards. Remember message boards, forums? And that's where I got all my information. And actually, I think, in a way, it was less confusing, you know, because now with social media, Facebook groups, there's a lot of conflicting information. So I don't know if you've experienced that yourselves over here, but with that in mind, it's a really good idea, in my experience, to just seek out a couple of credible sources of information. You know, people that you can see their work. You know, they've got their work out there. You can see they know what they're talking about. It's very often you'll go onto a Facebook group and you'll hear some advice from someone that's potentially kind of well-intended advice, but not based on much experience necessarily, and maybe a lot of hearsay that we tend to get in the hobby. So there's a really good book out there. But in all seriousness, it is wise to kind of seek out a couple of credible sources. There's some really good YouTube channels out there. George Farmer, he's pretty good. No, there's a guy called, who do I like? Green Aqua. Most of you heard of Green Aqua. Yuri's you've heard of. If you like more entertaining, kind of high turnover aquascapes, you've got MD Fish Tanks, well-known UK YouTuber. For more kind of educational, high-end production, there's a guy called Tank Tested. I don't know if any of you heard of him, American guy. Actually works for National Geographic, so like a proper documentary maker. He does some really good stuff. But yeah, the internet is a great tool, you know, but use it as a tool. It can be a bit confusing as well. That's, so just kind of planting as evenly as I kind of can, and then we are going to mix it up a little bit with some other species, because what we don't want to do in nature, you very rarely see, you know, a very kind of mono block of planting. You know, you don't often see that. So what I try to do is mix it up a little bit, plant some different textures amongst the hairgrass, and that's going to create a more naturalistic texture. And then as the aquascape matures, as the plants kind of grow into each other, it creates this really natural kind of chaotic texture that you'd find in like a meadow, you know, or something a bit, not necessarily a mode like lawn, but something a bit more, you know, naturalistic. Okay, you're doing a great job, guys. Thank you very much. Have you got an aquarium at home?
Yeah.
Yeah? What size?
We have how much aquarium? I think 9.
You have 9 aquariums?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's more than me. How do you have time? Do you go to school? Yeah. Thank you for your help. Round of applause for the young gentleman. Oh, is he still helping? Oh, we'll still give him a round of applause anyway. Yeah. probably got room if someone wants to help plant. Where's the little man? I think it's really great to inspire the new generation. Okay, I know some of you are more mature out there, but I'm knocking on. Anyway, doesn't matter how old I am. My passion now goes beyond just aquascaping. I've taught a lot of people how to aquascape. Now it's like trying to teach people why. Why should you aquascape? I've touched on that already with wellness and stuff, but it's got to the point where I feel it's just really important to hopefully get across to the younger generations how important it is to look after, anything to do with nature, because we are nature, right? And I think maybe if we can learn to look after an aquarium properly and look after the inhabitants of an aquarium, give the fish what they need, give the plants what they need, give the shrimp what they need, and create something beautiful. I wonder if that can help connect, especially younger people, to something bigger than themselves. Because I think we live in an age of almost entitlement, like social media, outrage culture. If you don't agree with me, then you're against me. And I think there's a lot of divisiveness in modern culture. And I think aquascaping in its own little way can really help to kind of just level it, and everyone has got a bit of a common ground, a common theme. We all want to look after something. We all want to care for something. And aquascaping is helping to do that. It's always interesting. When I first started aquascaping, and I kind of got quite well known, and I think I got a bit of an ego, and I was thinking, I am the aquascaper, and I actually called myself. My brand name was the Aquascaper. I sold the brand, and that's all fine. But now with a bit of sort of maturity and a bit more wisdom, I guess, I realised that I'm never the aquascaper. I'm just an aquascaper who has the opportunity to spread the message of aquascaping, and that's all I am. I'm never the aquascaper. I'm just the messenger of it, really. And I'm very grateful to have a platform like YouTube, Instagram, actual physical shops that are happy to invite me to talk about aquascaping. It's great. It really is, and I'm really grateful for it. But why aquascaping? Some of you aquascape already at home, I'm sure, and I wonder how much thought you've given that. Why do you do it? What is it about it that you really love? Have you actually thought about that? And actually, it can take you on a really interesting journey, the more thought you give it, I think. For me, it's all about connecting with nature. When it comes down to it, that's all we have, when you think about it. So, I'm going to stop preaching now. I'm going to start planting a intermittent hair grass. So this is Eleocharis parvula. So this has been grown, sorry about the water, this has been grown actually hydroponically out of water. So this isn't the tissue culture, this isn't the one to grow. As you can see, it's a lot taller. This has been grown out of water, it's got its immersed growth, it's a lot taller. When we trim that for the first time, it's going to actually produce new underwater leaves, and they're actually going to be a lot more curly. It's actually going to complement the kind of more straighter textures of the mini hair grass, so that's why we're using that. Any questions?
I failed at quite a few states, and one of my problems was I had a lot of wood, and I had shade under the wood, and nothing would.
Yes, nothing.
Did you take that into consideration as you plant, or did you just plant and see what stays?
I would consider that, and you can actually, in a layout like this, you can actually see already, just by the way the light is cast, what would struggle and what would be okay. Now, I've got quite an array of plants here, and I would naturally choose ones that would tolerate the shade to be planted in the shaded area. Yeah. But the good thing about shade is actually you can use it to your advantage. You know, a strong composition uses light and shade in good measure, in good balance. So don't just assume that a beautiful aquascape has to be like really well exposed and perfectly lit all the way through the aquascape. It's really important to use light and shade. This is a great example here. Yeah, you've got really dark areas down here, and you've got light areas in the middle, and it's the contrast that actually adds to the interest. Yeah. So just think about, you know, there's lots to think about in aquascaping. It's not, you know, it's not easy to create a masterpiece. You know, and arguably, you know, I've arguably never created one, but that isn't the point. The point isn't to create a masterpiece. The point is to have fun trying to create a masterpiece. Okay, and something else. I'm going to start rambling again. But the another thing that aquascaping has helped me appreciate is the actual it's the joy of focusing on the process. So actually what I'm doing right now, the joy is in this. It's not actually necessarily in achieving that. So it's having fun, you know, enjoying every little kind of step that you're doing and appreciating it, and not necessarily thinking ahead, oh, I can't wait for this to look good, because you're losing out on the present because you're giving yourself up to thinking about the future. And you can say the same thing about thinking about the past. Yeah, there's no point in regretting what you've done or things that have happened, because they're done. You've got no control over that. What you have control over is the here and now, the present. You know, I've got control over hitting the glass with my tweezers. So that's something that's very powerful that I've learned through aquascaping, is the importance of focusing on process, the joy of doing what you're doing, and not the end result, because you're kind of losing out on life if you focus on the end result all the time. Back to planting. Okay, good. So it looks quite long at the moment. It will, when the new shoots come out, they'll be nice and curly, and you can, like I said, you can trim it, and that's going to encourage the new growth straight away. It is quite a bothersome plant in terms of when you do trim it. I don't know if anyone's ever grown a hairgrass carpet before. When you trim it, you get all your floating blades, and there's literally millions of them, and you end up netting them off for ages. But the good thing about hairgrass is you can let it grow and grow and grow until it becomes really, really matted. You know, I've seen carpets go for more than a year or so before they need any attention. So it can be a relatively low maintenance foreground plant as well. Okay, it's pretty much done there for the hairgrass. That's okay for now, I think. The spray. Okay, I'll work my way towards the next kind of plant, towards the background. And that is one of my favourite crypts of all time. Second. Okay, anyone know the species? Yes, there's my boy. A beautiful little plant. It doesn't grow much above 15 centimetres or so, so it's ideal for sort of foreground or mid-ground, depending on your tank size. Pincets are here. Can someone do me a favour and trim the roots off these? You want to come? Can you do that for me? Just copy those, yeah, that's it, thank you. So exactly the same method. You can actually divide these up a bit more if you wanted more coverage, like so. So grab your tweezers. Excuse me. Now I'm just going to plant these intermittently. Cryptocorini albida brown, medium category, small Cryptocorini species. Does look absolutely beautiful with more light. You'll get more colour on the leaves, and it will stay relatively short. But yeah, it's a beautiful little plant. The thing I love about crypts is they're low maintenance. They can send out runners, but they don't tend to overtake a tank. They produce new leaves from the rosette. They get slightly bigger. Sometimes they'll lay their leaves flatter. They're just low maintenance. They don't need a lot of light. Most crypts don't need CO2 injection, and they're just a really sustainable, beautiful plant that looks, depending on the species, depending on the setup, will look very different. So it's kind of like a bit of a surprise as well what the plant will look like in the longer term. Great job, thank you. What was your name again?
Grégoire.
Grégoire, is that right?
Yes.
Sorry, my French is terrible. There's actually a really famous French aquascaper called Grégoire Walensky. He won we talked about the ILPLC earlier, the International Aquatic Plant Layout Contest. He won that with I can't remember the aquascape name, but it was quite groundbreaking. But yeah, he's a very well-known French aquascaper. Does he still have his shop?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Cool. 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 Good, right, that's all, we've got some more. Anyone here ever been to the UK before? Yeah? London?
Actually, I'm moving in London in a few months.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
Should hook up?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? I'm only hour train ride away. Yeah. What are you doing over there?
So I'm following my girlfriend, she having a job over there.
Yeah.
And I will follow basically.
Oh, cool.
So finding also a job in London.
Do you have any idea for a job yet?
Actually, yes.
Okay.
I'm working in the field of renewable energies.
Oh, wow.
So,
Interesting.
yeah, there is plenty
Yeah.
of company or university doing research in that field.
Cool.
Looking forward.
Yeah. There's some really good aquascaping community in London as well.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
Looking forward. for
Yeah,
this
yeah.
as well.
Oh, good. Yeah, I live near Cambridge, which is about an hour train ride north of London. Very lucky. I have England is very good for aquascaping now. We have some very good stores over there. Good. So I think it's looking really nice now. I like the way the brown of the leaves kind of picking out the brown of the wood. The wood's going to get a lot more brown as it gets soaked, of course. It will take on a much more darker brown colour. But yeah, looking good so far. Let's work our way back a little bit more. We've got some of the Sagittaria subulata. Anyone grown this before? It's a really old school plant. It's a little bit like Vallisneria. It's another weird one. Sometimes it stays short, sometimes it will go really long. So sorry, whoever maintains this. But it's going to add lots of nice, interesting textures, and it will blend nicely with the crypt. And again, it's like a spiky, vertical texture, which is what we're going for. We'll pop a bit there as well. And in fact, now I'll put some. I'm just talking to myself now. It's a bit weird in front of the crowd. Sometimes I forget I'm in front of people and I just start talking to myself. It's called the flow state. Yeah, has everyone heard of that? You go into when you get in a creative zone, you get into like a flow state, and I tend to forget where I am sometimes. Ray. Any more questions? No. So maintenance-wise on this, I would be wanting to do about a 50% water change every day for the first week or so, and then every other day for the second week, every third day for the third week, and then after 4 weeks, I'd stick to 50% water change once a week. So it's a lot of water changes. We talked about why they're important already, but just a refresher, they really help to avoid these early algae issues. You know, these plants, you know, they're going to take a couple of days to start to really grow, to really adapt to the conditions. And during this stage, you know, you've got the water, you've got the light, you've got the nutrients, you've got all these plants. But if the plants aren't growing, algae has got the opportunity to grow. So we need to really kind of give the plants the best chance. And one of the ways we do that is these big, frequent water changes. If you didn't have livestock in the aquarium, which I don't recommend for a brand new setup with soil, you could actually increase your CO2 to potentially what you might think is a dangerous level, because there's no livestock in there. So you can actually really ramp up your CO2 if you wanted to really give the plants the best chance of growth. The potential downside to that, we're talking quite advanced techniques now, but the potential downside to that is that the plants have adapted to that high level of CO2. So when you need to go back down again to stock your fish, so you don't kill your fish, the plants might suffer because they've adapted themselves to that high level. So do that high CO2 thing at your own risk. It's something for the more advanced people out there to do. And then maybe to get your plants to adapt, you could gradually sort of titrate, you know, ramp down your CO2 slightly.
George, what about dry start?
I'm not a big fan of dry start. I understand their advantages. I have done it myself, but I like the plants. Without going into too much detail, the plants, when you buy them, if you how do I explain this really easily? When you're setting up an aquascape, it's an aquascape with water, so I don't like dry starts. Yeah.
What do you think about dark start method?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so the dark start methods. This is a method when you're using soil which is going to have a high level of ammonia. You actually fill it with water. You don't have any plants, and you have a new filter, and then you run it. And then the ammonia in the soil seeds the filter, and then once the filter's mature, you can put your lights on and your plants in. Was that dark start?
Dark start.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that, or you can put your lights on and do your water changes. It's up to you. If you want a dark tank for 4 weeks, then that's okay. If you want a light tank and you're happy to do water changes, then that's what I would do. You basically, it's all about how much work do you want to put in to get the result, and how long do you want it to take. So going back to the original thing of taking your time, you know, how you have to balance it with. You don't want it to take too long because you'll get bored and you'll lose interest and lose motivation, and then you'll probably give up the hobby. But you don't want it. You don't want to. Yeah, actually, this is a really interesting point. Arguably, you don't want to have brilliant success straight away, because when you do make mistakes later down the line, which you will, you'll be really struggling. You know, mentally, you'll be like, why is this happening to me? You know, I have great success to start with. You know, and I've had lots of people, lots of friends contact me. You know, George, what's going on? The magic is in the. It's hard to say, but the magic is in the failure, really, and you have to lean in to the failure sometimes. Yeah, it's what I'm doing is trying to make you have the easiest time of making success, but I don't want you to think you're never going to fail. You're never going to make a mistake. Yeah, because I think it's okay to make mistakes. Sometimes it's the only way some people learn. Hopefully, I've made so many mistakes and people learn from me. But there's something really good about making mistakes as well. Okay, we're going to move on to background plants now, and then finally we move on to epiphyte plants. So we've got some beautiful stems. Again, they're all this spiky texture. Now I'm going to start off with the back left. I'm just going to make this a bit nicer to see, hopefully. Okay, Vallisneria nana. This is one of the few aquatic plant species that don't grow out of water. These only grow underwater. This is a 100% fully aquatic plant. So for that reason, it's really important that they don't dry out. Okay, if this dries out, it will die really quickly. Very fragile. You know, most plants that have been grown fully submerged are more fragile. And the reason for that is they have to support their own body weight in the water. The water supports their own body weight, whereas a plant that's been grown hydroponically out of water has to support its own body weight, so it's a lot more robust. So quite simply, grab your tweezers, just pop it in. So this will send out runners, and this will eventually, unless it's kept in check, will form a completely solid kind of background curtain effect. It's my favourite Vallis. It's not the fastest growing, it's not a complete brute like some of them. Quite a delicate leaf, as you can see, quite a fine texture. So it's ideal for this smaller aquarium. Any more questions? I just realised I was really quiet then.
Maybe, as you are a professional in the field of aquascaping, do you notice that because of Wabikusa or terrarium scaping, some people shift from aquascaping to terrascaping because it's less maintenance? Or?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I've never really thought about it like that. What I will say is I don't think people are giving up one for the other. I think they're doing both. Yeah, I think what I love about terrariums, especially the smaller, low-maintenance ones, it's a really good introduction for people into bringing nature into your home. You know, for me, it's like a gateway drug. You know, like you start them off on something really cheap and easy and addictive, like a little terrarium, and then they work their way up to the hardcore methamphetamines, like ADA tanks. But yeah, I think. Most people with experience in aquascaping that enjoy aquascaping have an appreciation for the nature, and it's a natural thing to try a terrarium. And I think vice versa. You know, people that have experience in terrariums, paludariums, it would be natural to try an aquascape. Yeah. I want to recommend another YouTuber actually, Serpa Design. Has everyone heard of Tanner? He's a really nice guy. I had a super cool time with him in Orlando a couple of weeks ago. Okay, we're getting there, aren't we? It's a bit longer than my Tropica Live workshops. Go! That's why I get it done in an hour. Right. They're so stressful, honestly. In a good way. Yeah. Has anyone watched the Tropica Lives? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Tropica Aquarium Plants YouTube channel. We do a weekly live show where we scape a tank like this, live, but it's all high-end live streaming. So yeah, if you don't subscribe already, please check out Tropical Aquarium Plants YouTube channel. Loads of cool videos on there. I've done quite a few over the years. And we've actually got a show this Thursday coming. Is it Sunday today? Saturday. Yeah, this Thursday we've got a show. My friend Rachel Ellis from the UK. She's going to be scaping a 60-litre betta tank, fighting fish tank. So that'd be cool. Thursday, 6 PM. Put it in your diaries. But seriously, if you do, I've got an idea. Go on Tropica Live on Thursday, and then on the live chat say I am so and so from Georgia's Swiss Aqua Shop Workshop, and then I'll make sure you get a special mention in the stream. Okay, there you go. Is that a deal?
Deal.
Cool. And share the link. The link's actually available now. If you come and see me after, I'll send you the link. And then I really want to get I'm talking about process over outcome. But I've got this thing in my mind. I want to get 1,000 people watching the Tropica Live at one time. The most we've had is like 400 so far. But 1,000, that would be great. Cool. I think the trick is to get. We really want to encourage the newcomers, the beginners to the hobby. It's actually trying to get the message to them, because the beginners they're not really plugged into the aquascaping scene. So it's actually trying to. Yeah. Anyway, my problem. But if you've got any ideas, let me know. So this is Pogostemon stellata. This is actually an advanced stem plant. Definitely need good light. Definitely need CO2 injection and good fertilizers. Beautiful plant. The leaves should turn a nice sort of purpley colour after some time. Quite a fast grower, but it's going to really make a lush, colourful background, which is going to enhance the whole look, hopefully. And then we've got quite a few actually. I was a bit overestimated, I think, the amount of plants we needed. Better to have too many than not enough, though, I think. Got some more there. Let's pop that in. Yeah, the more plants, the merrier. They're not cheap, aquarium plants, but it's an investment. The more plants you have at the beginning and the healthier those plants are, the more success you're going to get, the more growth you'll get, the less algae you'll get, the quicker the aquascape's going to look mature, the more you're going to enjoy it. Okay, a second Pogostemon stem plant species. This is Pogostemon erectus. Similar texture, but the leaves stay smaller and it stays a bright green colour. Now I'm actually going to blend it in a little bit with the other one to create a more natural transition. Otherwise it will go, bright purple and then bright green. It's not going to look natural. So we're going to deliberately mix those up a little bit. And again, you could separate these stems individually and plant them individually to get more coverage, but I don't need to do that today. Normally in my homescapes I've often avoided stem plants because they're high maintenance, but if you do have more time at home to maintain your tank, which I encourage, I think the maintenance process is to be enjoyed, and if you can learn to love the maintenance, then you're on to a winner, really. Right, this is called Crinum calamastratum. Again, this is an old school plant. It comes from the onion family. You can see it comes from like a bulb there. So I've just ripped those roots. That's going to help encourage new root growth. And then I'm going to just pop this behind the vallis. This is going to blend those textures a little bit. And just use your fingers to plant that. A bit of a spray. Okay, now I did have some Hygrophila siamensis 53B, but I'm not going to use that today. Sorry, Tropica. Okay, epiphyte plants. These are plants that attach to decor. Now, interestingly, I've got one called Hygrophila Lancea. Yeah, Lancea araguae. Yeah, well done. It's actually a stem plant. It will grow in the soil, but it can also grow as a epiphyte plant. And the great thing about this wood is that we don't need to hopefully glue or tie with any string. We can just wedge the rootstock. It's quite robust here. We can just wedge that in, like so. And that's going to attach itself naturally and create, because it's nearer the light now, it's actually, the leaves are going to turn quite an intense reddy, deep brown, purple colour. So this plant was used like this, I saw it, I've used it like this before myself, but I've seen it really lovely being used in Aquarium Gardens, which is my local shop. It's about 4 kilometres away from my house, which is very lucky. Right. Who thinks we should put trident fern here? What should we do? What other epiphytes have we got? Have we got any Pinnativida?
There are some microserving bread.
Let's see, anyone know this? You got any on Aqua already? Oh, yeah, one of those. It's not a George Farmer layout unless it's got trident fern in it. Okay. More epiphytes, Hygrophila Pinnativida. Same kind of principle as the araguae. Can be grown as a stem plant, but also epiphyte. Now you will need a little bit more fertilisers with these plants because they are quite nutrient hungry, and they're not going to be able to get any nutrients from the soil, of course. So they will need a little bit more fertiliser than usual. And they do look really ugly. Yeah, that looks ugly, doesn't it, to be fair? But it will quite soon grow towards the light, get its proper shape. So there's a bit of a gap here. Nice to see you. I'm just going to pop this hair. There's a bit of a gap here. I didn't notice working behind the tank. There's quite a distinctive gap here. So I'm just going to pop this hair grass there. It is actually quite well lit there, so it's going to grow fine. Parvula, Eleocharis parvula, is actually an easy category as opposed to the Eleocharis acicularis mini, which is medium. So if it does get shaded a little bit, it's not going to be too much of an issue. Beautiful. Okay, trident fern. Oh, I think we could do with the. So I think that goes here. perfectly like, I don't know. Any thoughts, anyone? Let's make this interactive. So there's obviously a big gap here. Now I wonder if we put, maybe there's actually some soil here we could plant into here. Alex, that's a bit cheesy, isn't it? A bit like, look at me.
Maybe some peppers, some small dragon stones.
So what, sorry?
Some small dragon stones.
Ah, yeah, and then,
Like,
yeah. Like it, yeah.
wool. And then we can.
And then some small epiphytes between. Okay. What's your name?
Ben.
Ben. Round of applause for Ben. Genius idea. Can we have a load of small dragon stones to kind of fit around here? And then where those gaps are, Ben's idea, going to plug in a load more little epiphytes. And then it will have like a real nice mound effect around here. And it's going to stop the wood from floating again. Yeah, can we get it rinsed quickly as well? Yeah, perfect, they're perfect, thank you. Anybody want a free trident fern? Sorry, sir. Sorry about that. You want a little bag? You can help yourself to these as well, actually. And here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for helping. Give them for the. Sorry about the water. Okay. When I was in Orlando a couple of weeks ago, and I was doing workshops like this, and we just had hundreds of plants, and we could just. That was crazy. Sorry, I haven't got so many to throw. Hang on. There you go, Dan. There will be some left over, I'm sure.
You seem pretty confident that the wood won't float. Those
Might come across as confident. Yeah, it is really. But we've got more stones on their way, so we've got a plan. Thank you very much. That's fine. The biggest issue with the dragon stone is it's very, very dirty. This is why I've asked it to be rinsed, because it will really cloud the water quite significantly. I know this looks a bit weird at the moment, but there is a method in my madness, hopefully.
I was thinking really small peppers, really small.
Oh,
I'd
pebbles.
like to crochet the.
Yeah,
They have to be.
yeah. Okay. Do we have any Anubias or Bucophilandra? Just the. What have we got? Yeah, both. How many have you got? Okay, let's do 3 of each. Yeah. Okay, Bucophilandra. One of my favourite epiphytes. It originates from Borneo, which is actually a country under threat. You know, natural habitats under a lot of threat from palm oil production. So the Bucophilandra comes from there originally, but now we only use captive grown. We try not to use wild caught because it can potentially encourage the deforestation. Thank you very much. So, simple way to attach again. We're relying on these gaps in between the stone, and we're going to wedge our plants in between those gaps. If you had time at home, you can, sort of thing you can do in advance. You can take your hardscape out of the aquarium, you can take your time, you can glue your plants on, you can tie them on in your own time with thread. There you go. See, that's softened that already, hasn't it? And again, we can deliberately mix up the Philander species. We've got Kedigang and red, and if we deliberately kind of intermix them, we're going to create this natural texture. Make sure that relish doesn't dry out. Any questions? I'm just zoning out there, sorry.
Sort of a beginner's question about lighting.
Yes.
And basically the issue of just the normal light you have in the home.
Ambient light.
The ambient light you have, that can be a big issue usually if you have a lot of windows, even if it's indirect light.
Yes.
So do you recommend maybe having the aquarium in a specific room for that? Because mine is in the living room and it's,
yeah, I mean, ideally you kind of plan, how do I say this? So you have to balance, where you're going to sit and enjoy your aquarium with how much time you're going to have to spend cleaning the algae because it's so bright. So it's a situation that's unique to your own circumstance. So it's a question you have to ask yourself, where do I want my aquarium? Is it going to get loads of light there? If it is, what can I do to stop the algae? So, if you're getting loads of light, you could run super high energy tank and use that light for your benefit. So you could plant really heavily, really dense, fast growing plants, loads of floating plants maybe, and then actually use the light. And then the plants are just going to outcompete with the algae. You'll end up trimming the plants a lot because of the light. You might need to use CO2 to balance the light. Yeah. But yeah, that's one option. The other option is just to rescape somewhere differently. You know, how important is the aquarium in your life? Do you need to rearrange your whole house around the aquarium? That's what I've done. You know, I had an office space, and you know, we rearranged a lot of our home around. But it's horse. You know, in the UK we say horses for courses. It's down to different tastes and different needs, different requirements. Your life partner might not enjoy it, so you know, there's lots of different you know, things to take into consideration. But the fundamental thing is put your aquarium somewhere where you're going to enjoy it as much as you can. So take into account where you're going to be sitting. You know, like, do you have it deliberately somewhere different to the TV? Because otherwise it's just going to be a distraction. Do you actually have it not even in your office because it's going to be a distraction? I don't get any work. You know, some people have an actual dedicated aquarium room, you know, and it's like a zen area where they just chill. So it's up to you. You've got to make it work for you, though. That's the number one thing. As soon as it stops being fun and it's actually stressing you more than it's giving you joy, then you know you need to work on something. But that's working on your own mindset or working on the hobby. This one thing has to change, or both. Normally mindset. I think we're there, planted wise anyway. Let's just try and clean that front glass a bit. Are we going to fill with water now, or who wants water in there now? Yeah, everyone? Oh. Hate you. Everyone wants to see the wood float? Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question with the water.
Yeah.
So you really need to have like a reverse of this water for the plants, or you can use
No, you can use tap water. I have hard tap water. Yeah. I mean, reverse osmosis is like
by hard.
hard. Do you know CDS?
No,
Do you KH or GH 15?
15.
Yeah,
That's
KH
hard water.
of 8 or 10.
And no problem with the plants.
Not the. I stick to fairly easy plants. Yeah. I could grow all of it. This system here would work absolutely fine with my tap water. Yeah, everything you see here. The good thing about the soil is actually it softens the water slightly as well. Yeah, we didn't talk about that so much.
How is TDS? Would you run that?
If I had a choice, I'd run planted tanks at around TS of 100, 200 if I had a choice, but I don't. I use tap water, which is about 400 TDS for me. But that's really good for breeding Neocaridina shrimp. My shrimp breed really well in that water. Yeah. And my discus was spawning as well, but they're from a hard water. They're captive bred in hard water anyway. We're going to get some water in there now. I'm going to take a little bit of a bathroom break, just for 2 minutes. I want to say cheerio to the live audience. Thank you for watching, everyone. Keep on scaping, cheerio.